Tonight I will read a few excerpts from an article which appeared in The Guardian over the weekend, written by Richard Gott, regarding the situation in Central and South America. Hasn't been mentioned much on the American news channels. That's no big surprise. But here it goes. The article is entitled, "Go Home, Gringo." On the 35th anniversary of the military overthrow of Salvador Allende in Chile in 1973, September 11th of 1973, which had the overt support of the United States, and this was a democratically elected government, by the way. The presidents of Bolivia and Venezuela have just asked the U.S. ambassadors accredited to their countries to leave. They both believe, that is Evo Morales and Chavez, that they are facing the possibility of an imminent coup d'etat in which they accuse the Americans of being involved. A third country, Paraguay, announced 10 days ago that it had detected a conspiracy involving military officers and opposition politicians. Latin America now faces its most serious crisis since the reintroduction of democratic practice at the end of the last century. In other words, the year 2000. Brazil and Argentina have both denounced the violent activities of opposition groups in Bolivia that have led to the closure of natural gas pipelines to their countries, while President Hugo Chavez of Venezuela has warned that a coup against Evo Morales would be seen as a green light for an armed insurgency in that country. Giving details of a planned coup in his country, Chavez, in which retired military officers and opposition figures were involved, he announced the expulsion of the U.S. ambassador, Patrick Duddy, and the withdrawal of his own ambassador from Washington. So relations are evidently at a very low point at this time. Any aggression against Venezuela, Chavez said, would involve the halt in the supply of Venezuelan oil to the United States. Chavez's decision comes on the day after President Morales had thrown out the U.S. ambassador Philip Goldberg, and he has quite an interesting resume, I might say. You may want to look this guy up, who has been frequently accused by the Bolivian government of plotting with the separatist politicians in the eastern provinces. These politicians represent, I might add, the ruling elite of that country. In other words, the 1% of landowners, while the rest of the population barely has enough to eat. The situation in Bolivia, for the time being, is more dramatic than the one in Venezuela, although both countries are facing important electoral battles at the end of the year. Evo Morales is an indigenous politician from the Andes in the west of the country and has organized a referendum on a new constitution to which the right-wing and blatantly racist politicians in the eastern lowlands are bitterly opposed. The atmosphere of violence has now broken out into the open, with endless political demonstrations and several deaths, the seizure of provincial airports, and sabotage of the oil and gas installations on which the country's economy depends. Morales has accused the regional governments of the 5 eastern regions of creating the conditions for a coup. Chavez originally announced his decision to expel the U.S. ambassador from Caracas as an act of solidarity with Morales, so that Bolivia is not alone. But this is not where it ends. But it was soon clear that he had his own possible coup d'etat to face. A tape recording of phone conversations between retired military officers, some of whom were involved in the failed coup of 2002, which is well known and documented, was broadcast on Venezuelan television on Wednesday night, revealing plans to seize the presidential palace and to capture or shoot down the presidential plane. The suggestion that there were plans to assassinate the president brought large crowds down from the shanty towns on Thursday night to demonstrate their solidarity with Chavez. Several of the alleged conspirators have been detained. Venezuela, like Bolivia, has an uncertain pre-election climate. Since there will be regional and municipal elections in November, just like here, that will be viewed as a judgment on the popularity of the president. And of course, the United States media right now and the United States media is very busy covering the elections, the election hoopla, you might say. Recently the hurricane, and a little bit about Iraq, not too much about Afghanistan or any other country for that matter. So, meanwhile, the entire global situation is escalating because now Venezuela and Russia have announced that they're going to hold military exercises in the southern waters, joint military exercises with Russian warships on the way in about a month. I would just hope that people would see what is really going on, namely a huge struggle for resources. And as I said in my last video, every one of us, all the people on the globe, reserve a little piece of the pie. That's the only solution. Otherwise, if that isn't heeded by the powers that be, then there will be further wars and further violence to come. Good night.